Which of the following curves shows the correct relation between the convective resistance R and the radius of hot sphere small r being placed in the stream of cold air? Before looking into the options, let me explain the process a little bit. What is happening? A sphere is there which is having a higher temperature. It is a hot sphere, right? So a hot sphere surface is there with a radius small r, right? And it is being exposed to the molecules of the cold air, of the stream of cold air, right? So what will happen? The molecules from the stream of cold air, they will come into the contact of the hot sphere, right? Of the surface of the hot sphere. Because of the temperature difference, the heat will flow from the surface towards the molecule, right? And then the molecules will shift. Then the next set of molecule will come into contact, and then that will absorb some heat from the surface, and then that also will shift. So here the heat is getting removed from the hot surface due to the motion of the molecule, right? Which is surrounding the surface. Now, due to this, because the heat is getting removed due to the motion of the molecules of the medium, this process is called convection. That's why they are talking about convective resistance. And since the heat is getting removed, so there must be some defined rate of flow of heat that we know as convective current, right? So basically here the convective current will flow. That's why they are talking about convective resistance, the related convective resistance in the medium. Okay. Now let us look at the options. They are asking the convective resistance versus the radius. Which of the following graph is correct? Right? For the general phenomena of convection, we know that convective current delta Q by delta T in convection is given by H convection, that is the coefficient of convection, multiplied by area, which is the exposed surface area to the molecules of the medium, into delta T. Delta T is the temperature difference between the hot surface and the cold molecules of the medium, right? This, if you rearrange, can be written as delta T upon 1 by Hc times A, right? And now, whenever the thermal current flows, this is a thermal current, right? It is the flow of heat energy, right? The process involved is convection, but it is the flow of heat energy, right? So it's a thermal current, right? So I can write this as a thermal current. Of course, for the process of convection, it's the thermal current. So the thermal current is given by delta T by 1 upon Hc times A, right? And the thermal current in general, in the generalized form, if the temperature difference is delta T across which it is flowing, is given by delta T by R thermal, right? So for this particular process, where thermal current is delta T upon 1 by HCA, this 1 by HCA must be equivalent to the thermal resistance, right? So the convective resistance in this case will be given by 1 upon HCA, right? Where HC is the coefficient of convection and A is the exposed surface area of the spherical body in the given case, right? Okay. So the convective resistance is 1 by HCA. So see, HC is a constant for this particular system, right? Because HC depends on the properties of the fluids, right? I told you in the discussion of the previous sheet, if you remember, HC is something which depends on the properties of the fluid, right? So for a particular event, the coefficient, the convective resistance will be proportional to 1 upon surface area. Now what is the surface area in the given case? The surface area exposed is 4 pi r square, right? That is the surface area which is being exposed to the stream of the cold air, right? So the thermal resistance, which is the convective resistance in this case, will be proportional to 1 by r square, right? So r proportional to 1 by small r square. Now, r proportional to 1 by small r square, the graph is given by this, right? This is the approximate graph of y proportional to 1 by x square, right? Okay, I can make this a little more symmetric like this, but this is how the graph will look like, right? Approximately, where this is capital R, which is the convective resistance, and this is small r, which is the radius of the spherical body, right? So which of the correct, or which of the options will be correct? Option C will be the correct option in this case. Find the correct option among the following. And the options given are the relations between the absorptive power, the reflective power, and the transmissive power of a body, right? You might have done this in detail in the theory sessions, but I would like to explain this concept again in this problem. So what we can do is we can take a general body, some body, on which in some time, let's say t seconds, qi amount of radiation is getting incident onto the surface, right? This is the incident radiation. Qi is the incident, total incident radiation. Now, what are the three possibilities out of this incident radiation? A part of this incident radiation may get reflected, let's say, by QR. QR is the amount of radiation which is getting reflected by the surface, right? A part of it may get absorbed, let's say QA. QA is the amount of absorbed radiation out of QI, and then a part of it may get transmitted, right? QTR, let's say. It's the transmitted part of radiation out of QI. Now, the energy conservation says what it says. It says Q incident is equal to Q absorbed plus Q reflected plus Q transmitted, right? The total incident energy is getting splitted into three categories. So, all the three energies, the absorbed, the reflected, and the transmitted, in total should be equal to QI, right? Now, what I can write is QI is equal to QA plus QR plus QTR, right? And if we can divide this whole equation by QI, it becomes 1 is equal to QA by QI plus QR by QI plus QTR by QI, right? What is QA by QI? That's the absorbed radiation divided by incident radiation, the absorptive power of the body, right? So 1 is equal to A, that is the absorptive power, plus QR by QI, that's the reflective power of the body, right? Plus Q transmitted divided by QI, that's the transmissive power of the body, right? So that's T. So the relation we get is A plus R plus T is equal to 1. Let's check the options. Option B will be the correct option in this case. A spherical body of area 300 centimeter square has emissive power of 3000 joule per meter square second. Find the amount of thermal energy radiated by the body in 10 seconds. And the four options are given to you as usual. Okay, so this is the given data. Area of the surface is 300 centimeter square. The emissive power of the body is 3000 joule per meter square per second. And this is the body given to you, right? Now, within the basic definition of emissive power, what is emissive power? Emissive power is the energy radiated out by the body per unit area per unit time. What is emissive power? E is energy per unit area. That is, of course, the radiated energy. Energy, that is radiated energy per unit area per unit time, right? This is the basic definition of emissive power. Please look at the units of emissive power as well. That also tells you the definition. That's joule per meter square per second. Joule is the amount of energy. Per meter square is divided by the total area. Per second is divided by the total time, right? So it's energy, total energy divided by total area multiplied by time, right? So the emissive power must be given by, let's say, the total energy emitted in t seconds. The total energy emitted in t seconds is Q. That Q you have to figure out. So the total energy emitted is Q. So energy per unit area will be Q by A. Per unit time will be Q by AT, right? That is from the definition of emissive power. Emissive power is equal to total energy divided by total area multiplied by time, right? So emissive power is equal to Q by AT. You have to figure out what is Q. Q will be equal to emissive power multiplied by A multiplied by T. Emissive power is given to be 3000, right? Please remember that all the units should be taken as SI units. So area which is 300 centimeter square, you should convert into meter square. So that comes out to be 300, that's 300. 300 centimeter square, that's 300 multiplied by 1 centimeter square. That's 1 centimeter square is 10 raised to power minus 4 meter square, right? So that's 10 raised to power minus 4 meter square multiplied by time. What is time? T is the time. T is time. What is time taken for the process? 10 seconds, right? So multiplied by T. That's, if you see, 10 raised to power minus 4 into 10, that's 10 raised to power minus 3. 10 raised to power minus 3 eats up all these three zeros. So what is this? 300 multiplied by 3. That's 900, right? 900 joules. Joules, by joules? Because everything I have taken in SI units. So the radiated thermal energy by the body will be equal to 900 joules. Sir, I have studied one formula that by the Stephen's law, the energy radiated per unit area per unit time is given by E sigma T power 4, where capital T is the temperature of the body. Is that a correct thing? Yes. So, sir, why didn't you use it? I didn't use it because I have nothing to do with the temperature, right? What I wanted is the value of Q, the total amount of thermal radiation which is getting emitted out in 10 seconds. If the question might have been like, what is the temperature of the body given the emissivity of the body this much and the emissive power of the body this much, then I might have used this formula, because this is the Stephen's law, right? That the emissive power, that the energy radiated out per unit area per unit time is equal to emissivity multiplied by sigma, which is Stephen's constant, multiplied by temperature to the power 4. But this I will use only if I want to calculate temperature, right? If the question might have been related to temperature or emissivity, I might have used this formula. I have not used this formula. I have used the basic definition of emissive power because I wanted to calculate the total thermal energy radiated out in T seconds, right? And that comes out to be 900 joules. Let's check the options. Option D, that will be the correct option in this case. A polished metal plate with a rough black spot onto it is heated to about 1400 Kelvin and quickly taken into a dark room. The spot will appear. You have to compare basically the color of the spot as compared to the color of the remaining plate surface at higher temperatures in the dark room. Let's look into the problem. This is the statement given, like this is the problem statement if you draw. So the plate and the black rough spot onto it at lower temperatures, right? When the temperature is quite low. So at lower temperatures, the body absorbs more as compared to emission, right? The thermal radiation is absorbed more as compared to emission. It emits less as compared to absorption, right? So at lower temperature, when the sufficient light is available in the surrounding, the color which we observe is due to the reflected light, right? So if this plate at lower temperature is looking shiny, that means whatever light is incident onto the plate surface is getting reflected back to the observer. That's why it is looking shiny. So that means it is a good reflector. The remaining plate surface is a good reflector. And a good reflector means a bad absorber. Who is a bad absorber? Bad absorber. Who is a bad absorber? The remaining plate surface is a bad absorber because it is looking shiny at the lower temperature, right? Now, what about the black spot? The black spot is looking black at lower temperatures. What does that mean? That means that it is absorbing almost every radiation which is falling onto the spot. That means it is not reflecting anything. That means the spot is a good absorber. Good absorber. And this is the case at lower temperatures. And a good absorber is a good emitter, right? As per the Kirchhoff law, a bad absorber is a bad emitter, right? So if you increase the temperature and you shift the entire system into a dark room, then into a dark room, no light in the surrounding will be available, right? So whatever color will be observed will be the color due to, or color appearing due to the radiation which is getting emitted by the body itself, right? No reflected part of radiation is there in the dark room. So the color we observe in the dark room is because of the radiated part, or the emitted part of radiation, right? And since plate was a bad absorber, it will be a bad emitter at higher temperatures. So if it is a bad emitter, it emits almost zero radiation. It was white initially, now it will be black at higher temperatures because it emits almost zero radiation. And since the black spot was a good absorber at lower temperatures, then at higher temperature, it becomes a good emitter as well, as per the Kirchhoff law. So it emits a lot of radiations as compared to the plate. So that's why the black spot, which is emitting more as compared to the plate, will look shiny or brighter as compared to the plate surface. Let's look into the options. Option B, that the spot will look brighter than the plate surface. That will be the correct option in this case. If between wavelengths lambda to lambda plus d lambda, capital E lambda and small a lambda are the emissive and the absorptive powers of a body, and E b lambda is the emissive power of a perfect black body for the same wavelength range, lambda to lambda plus d lambda, then according to Kirchhoff's law, which of the following is true? In order to answer this, let's discuss the result of Kirchhoff's law once again. So, if a body is emitting and absorbing the radiations in between lambda to lambda plus d lambda, that means this range of wavelength is lambda to lambda plus d lambda. That means in this wavelength range, if the body is having an emissive power, that is E lambda, and the absorptive power, that is A lambda, then the Kirchhoff law says for any body, for any general body, the emissive power of the body and the absorptive power of the body, the ratio of these two for any particular wavelength range remains constant. So the Kirchhoff law says this is a constant for any body. For any body it is a constant. That means for a black body also it should be a constant, right? So that constant is equal to E lambda for a black body, that is EB lambda, upon A lambda, that is the absorptive power for the black body in this wavelength range, AB lambda. Now absorptive power for a black body always is taken equal to 1, right? AB lambda is always 1. The absorptive power of a black body in any wavelength range is always equal to 1. That means it absorbs every radiation. The black body absorbs every radiation in any wavelength range which is falling onto it. That's why the absorptive power of a black body in any wavelength range is always equal to 1. In that case, as per the Kirchhoff law statement, E lambda divided by A lambda for any body must be equal to EB lambda, that is E lambda for the black body at the same wavelength range, right? So this gives you E lambda is equal to A lambda multiplied by EB lambda, which you might have studied as the Kirchhoff law statement or the Kirchhoff law result in your theory sessions. So that's E lambda is equal to A lambda multiplied by EB lambda. Let's look at the options. Option C will be the correct option in this case.